In the aftermath of the attacks in Paris, the French national anthem, La Marseillaise, rang out through stadiums across Europe as footballers and fans honored those who had died. Through the spectacle of sport, a ritual of mourning was being observed, but it sounded like a call to arms. Major sports events attract huge television audiences, far larger than news broadcasts ever get. And although it is difficult to quantify the propaganda value of sports at times such as these, the message being beamed out to millions on sports broadcasts was that the French Republic, even Europe, was under attack. In the post-9/11 era, the sports arena has grown much more political, particularly in the United States, where sports and patriotism merge in ceremonies that fuse the quest for athletic glory with notions of military supremacy. Hardly a big game goes by without someone in uniform being recognized, without a stadium full of fans supporting the troops. Americans might have thought that their sports franchises were honoring the military out of the goodness of their hearts. However, earlier this month, it was revealed that fans were actually paying for what they were seeing, that the Pentagon has spent millions of tax dollars to get teams to salute the military at their games. Marketing stunts dressed up as genuine displays of patriotism. In times of conflict, when the mainstream news media already tend to pound the drums of war, having sports audiences repeatedly exposed to pro-military messaging tilts the playing field further still. Usually, our starting point is the world of news. This week, it's the potent imagery laden with meaning in the world of sports. They call football the beautiful game, and the sight of rival players linking arms, the sound of rival fans singing La Marseillaise from the same song sheet would have stirred Europeans. But how many of those around Europe knew what they were singing, actually knew the meaning of the French anthem's lyrics? Against us, tyranny's bloody banner is raised. Do you hear the roar of those ferocious soldiers? They're coming to cut the throats of your sons, your women. To arms, citizens.
It's a bloody anthem. But I think really for most people, that anthem reminds them of Casablanca. It reminds them of people standing up to Nazism during World War II. And so this sense of standing with France is not seen in terms of the lyrics of the words, but rather in terms of supporting France.
But if you look at every national anthem, they're usually covering the same kind of territory. Enemies, barbarians at the gates, blood, war, sacrifice. But for many people, it's not actually about the lyrics, it's just the sound. It's a kind of dog whistle patriotism that you get when you hear something.
Sporting events are one of a few remaining mass gatherings we have in society. They're not a lot of things people all go to anymore. For very popular events, the entire country will tune in and watch. So it becomes an amazing captive audience to give any sort of political or social message you want to deliver. And of course, certainly having these messages at sporting events is quite resonant.
And the audiences they resonate with are huge, far larger than they are for the newscasts that spent this past week keeping track of the diplomacy, what politicians were saying in various capitals. This year's Champions League final in Europe was seen by 400 million people, the 2014 World Cup final by 1 billion. Nationalistic messages, barely disguised, are something American sports fans have grown accustomed to ever since 9/11.
It's moments like these that make you proud to be an American.
All the major spectator sports in the U.S. routinely pay tribute to the American military. And the message isn't just aimed at the tens of thousands in the stadiums. It's for the millions watching at home.
And as a fan, you're put into an awkward situation when someone is honored for the service they provided, and if they've lost a leg or they're in a wheelchair, you can't but feel for them for what they've gone through. But they're also being taken advantage of in a marketing ploy. You feel that they're being manipulated in a kind of attempt to make this more of a war culture.
Well, it's very disturbing actually, the things you see at American sporting events. You see military equipment, soldiers, and this is something which is quite alien to Europe and even elsewhere in most countries in the world. You don't see this explicit meshing of the military and the sports world and the entertainment world as you do in the United States. I certainly hope that we won't see more of that in Europe in the wake of this attack.
On to the Paris terror attacks. Next on
If propaganda was limited to the world of news, its reach, its impact would be minimal. However, it can also come from Hollywood, in the form of Zero Dark 30, a film about the hunt for Osama bin Laden,
And you're gonna kill him for me.
that the Obama administration helped shape through selective leaks of intelligence. Or from TV shows like Homeland or 24, that depict an America under a constant existential threat. Or it can come from the world of sports, and it can affect perceptions, not just amongst audiences, but even among those reporting to those audiences.
And so all of this, well, the flying the F-18 jets, the singing of the national anthems, the bringing out of the military veterans, and all that you see is driven towards Jim Acosta's question on CNN when he gets President Obama and he asks him,
the United States has the greatest military in the world. Why can't we take out these bastards?
the assumption is we must use the military. We've got to take them out. But we just had some of the top intelligence analysts in the United States say that the airstrikes are not working, the military campaign is not working. But somehow it's in all of our heads that, hey, the only answer is the military. Well, how did it get there? It got there through all of that powerful propaganda they did in sporting events and other popular entertainment.
And earlier this month, a story emerged in the U.S. revealing that sports tributes to the military are not entirely altruistic exercises. Members of Congress revealed that since 2012, the U.S. Department of Defense has paid 72 different franchises, baseball, football, basketball, and hockey teams, almost $7 million to host the tributes. Up until that was made public, American sports fans had no idea that what they were watching on TV was their tax dollars on display selling a militaristic message, a Pentagon policy that has come to be known as paid patriotism.
Nobody spends $6 million to try to, in a marketing stunt, unless they believe that they can help to sell a message successfully. And that's what the Pentagon have invested in. Is it a good thing? I mean, there is nothing wrong with shows of patriotism. There's nothing wrong with showing support for troops or the sacrifice that the military makes. And you can make an argument that is for our freedoms when there are people who might disagree.
They're getting propaganda value, basically, out of these events. They're getting captive audiences of millions of people who are seeing this. So what you're seeing is a fusion of culture and the military live happening at these sporting events.
Perhaps the most impressive moment of the NFL pregame pageantry is the shock and awe of the flyover.
And that's why the Department of Defense is more than willing to spend millions of dollars on this, because they need to keep the military to be as a prominent force in American cultural life. And sporting events play a huge role in this.
Many will have seen nothing wrong or concerning in the ceremonies preceding those football matches across Europe. Collective mourning and shows of solidarity come naturally to those in grief. But that's how it started in the U.S. too, after 9/11, where the initial spectacles of loss for the civilians who died have since turned into televised rituals of support for the military. Discerning viewers can see that, and they can hear echoes of a larger media narrative, the one that beats the drums of war.